You are now watching Believe. Do you believe?
Hello and welcome to the Tracy Sandler Show, brought to you by FIVO. I am your host, Tracy Sandler, and I am nothing short of thrilled. I'm going to go with the word thrilled to welcome back NFL Network Steve Wyche to the show. Steve, you were, I believe, one of my first or second guests when this show premiered. I'm going with premiered. We're going to make this very dramatic. And I'm so excited to have you back for, I believe, your third appearance.
I did not know that I was like one of your, inaugural guests. And now I'm even beyond flattered. I'm always very grateful to be asked to come on. But wow,
yeah,
I feel special, Tracy.
You are special, Steve. So yay. Well, we have a big game to talk about Monday night. It is the Rams, the 49ers, Monday Night Football at Levi Stadium. The 49ers are 1-2 and struggling. Incredible defense. Not so great on the offensive side of the ball, no matter who has been at quarterback. So I think that's kind of an important thing to talk about, and we'll get into that a little bit more. The Rams doing a little better, not exactly lighting the world on fire, but doing better. I don't want to go too deep into this because they're different seasons and different situations, but last year the 49ers at 3-5, the season really on the brink of just being a disaster and over. Meet the Rams at Levi Stadium for Monday Night Football. Just, totally annihilate them.
Yeah, Deebo Samuel goes absolutely nuts.
And it was crazy. Turns their entire season around. We're not quite there yet. We're in week 4. They're 1-2. But I guess let's start a little bit with the 49ers offensive issues because, you and I were talking a little bit before we came on. To me, it's less about the record. I mean, they're 1-2. It's week 4. Fine. It's more about their performance on the offensive side of the ball, especially when you have a defense that's playing at such a stellar level.
Yeah, I mean, look, the quarterback issue is what it was. Everyone knew when Trey Lance started there was going to be a learning curve, and you saw that right out of the gate. Teams were like, we're going to take Deebo Samuel out of the game as a receiver and a runner. Okay, what else do you got? Because George Kittle was hurt, right? He wasn't in the lineup early on. So they really had no left hand to go to. They were shooting nothing but right-handed layups, and defenses were stopping him. So then he gets hurt. Jimmy Garoppolo comes in, and Jimmy looks fantastic in relief, right? He is that backup point guard who's coming in to ask to play extended minutes, eager to come in and show the world something, probably run just a very basic set of plays, but they run them highly effectively because everybody else steps up. Then in week 3, they're playing a very, very good Denver defense. Jimmy looks completely lost because once again, what did they do? They took out Deebo Samuel. Deebo couldn't run the ball. Jimmy did not have time to throw it. And then Trent Williams gets hurt at left tackle, which was brutal. I mean, that is a brutal situation. The initial backup they put in clearly had no idea what to do, so they had to go to their third offensive tackle, and that was a wrap. So I don't think the Niners are far away. The injuries along the offensive line are a concern. But I think Jimmy will be a lot better against the Rams. He's had some great games against the Rams. I think the familiarity of some of the things they're doing with the defensive scheme will help. And just kind of that inherent rivalry that they have will have everybody else raising their games a little bit on both sides of the ball. So I would expect a better overall performance out of the Niners. Does that result in a W? We'll see. But we do know that they do tend to have the advantage over the Rams, with the final 2 games of the final 2 meetings of last year. Kind of, you got to pitch those out of the window in that regard.
And the NFC Championship game, I think you could make the argument that they did play better than the Rams. They just had a couple plays not go their way, and the Rams won. And
Turnovers.
Turnovers. That is, what it comes down to. And I think that's worth talking about when you look at Sunday night. There's the offensive line issues, which have been an issue all season. The first couple weeks, this interior of the offensive line that everyone was so concerned about looked okay. Then you get against this Denver defense, which was, just a completely different game. And then turnovers. You have an interception, you have 2 fumbles. And then, of course, really it comes down to that safety. That's not something that, in theory, you're going to be seeing every week. So I don't know that there's much more to discuss.
You would hope not,
there.
Tracy.
Let me tell you something. If they're giving up a safety every week, it is going to be a long 14 more weeks going on here in Santa Clara. Let me tell you that. But that play, of course, is a disaster. You have the safety, the pick 6 that gets called back, and that's where Trent Williams gets hurt. And so let's start there. Trent Williams, obviously the best left tackle in the league. Many of his teammates call him the best player in the league. They'll probably end up with Colton McKivitz. No offense to Colton McKivitz, who actually did a yeoman's job in Week 18 when the 49ers did win that game to go to the playoffs. But He's not Trent Williams. This makes George Kittle, of course, a bigger part of the blocking game. It's not just losing Trent Williams. It's what it does all the way down and the domino effect. So we saw the other night, Jimmy Garoppolo had very little time to throw. What happens this week and how can they counteract that?
Well, I mean, look,
Right.
The one thing since the Rams don't have Von Miller is their pass rush has not been the same, right? Leonard Floyd's a good player, but he's got a banged up knee, and Aaron Donald is Aaron Donald. And the Niners are going to commit at least 2 bodies to him at all times. So the other players have got to step up. And Terrell Lewis, a talented 3rd or 4th year player, he showed up something against Arizona. So if he shows up, then that's going to be an issue. So it's going to be a quick passing game. And it's going to be the run game. I mean, the one thing the Niners have done successfully, regardless of the outcome, is run the ball well against the Rams. That's one of the reasons why the Rams went out and got Bobby Wagner, who comes over from Seattle. He's familiar with the scheme. He's very good against the run. He's had a very good season thus far. So we'll see if they're able to kind of get that going. I mean, look, if the Niners can run the ball, that will alleviate a lot of the issues in terms of protection. Simple football, but we hear Kyle Shanahan talk about it. We hear Sean McVay talk about it. On the early downs, if you can run the football and get at least 4 to 5 yards, so you're at least 2nd and 6 negative, like 5.5, whatever, instead of 2nd and 6 plus, you got a lot more options. So I do think the Niners are going to make the commitment to run. I think you'll probably see a lot of 2 back, 2 tight end sets, single wide receiver. Kyle always mixes it up, but the 49ers are not afraid to bang. They are not afraid to bang with the Rams. And I think that's what you're going to try to see early on. The key is they just cannot fall too far behind. And I wouldn't think that would be the case the way that Niners defense is playing.
I would agree with that. Running the football kind of brings me to my next question. So thank you for that beautiful segue there. But, running the football is 100% what they're going to need to do and be successful at it. Easier said than done. They don't have Elijah Mitchell. So, Jeff Wilson is who we've seen in RB1. They don't have Ty Davis-Price. So you've got basically Jeff Wilson Jr., Marlon Mack, the rookie Jordan Mason, of course, Kyle Juszczyk at fullback. But as you said earlier, Deebo Samuel has really been taken out of the game in that role. And it's going to be interesting to see throughout the season. I don't know that the 49ers are going to be able to get it back because now everybody knows, and it's going to be hard to do that. So it will be kind of interesting to see, but that will be the key to the game. And Kyle Shanahan always says it. They want to run the ball, 30 or more times. You can't always do that, but that is the key to success for this offense.
Yeah, but Kyle's so creative with what he'll do. I mean, he'll do some things like get the defense on his heels by getting Juszczyk, play action, then dump it off 8 yards down the field. And then, Kyle's good for another 5 yards after. He'll do some things to kind of disrupt keys. I'll never forget one thing Richard Sherman, when he was still in Seattle, told me about Kyle. He's like, Kyle understands not only the principles of the opposing defense, but the integrity of what that defense wants to do. And every play when he lines guys up, right? He'll come out with a formation to really stress every player's integrity. Like, okay, I know on this play I'm supposed to get the back if he comes out of the backfield, but the way this is set up, I've got to get the slot receiver if he goes into this part of the zone. So I think Kyle's going to do some things to really stress the integrity of what the Rams are doing. I mean, the Rams got several corners who are down. So they might have to play 3 safeties, right? They may have to do some things that Kyle will steadily take advantage of. And I do expect Deebo Samuel to be a big part of this game. Because remember last year, and I believe it was the playoff game, it might have been the Week 18 game, where Deebo was doing a lot of wide sweep stuff. And, the Rams initially were coming up Jalen Ramsey like a bat out of hell, smacking Deebo in the mouth. And then Deebo just drops a pass over his head a little bit later for a touchdown. So I think there's going to be some creative things from the Niners offense early on to try to not only extend some drives, but to get some touchdowns. It just happens every time these two teams play.
It's true. And Kyle Shanahan does seem to be in his bag whenever he plays the Rams. I mean, it's like the best of Kyle Shanahan seems to absolutely come out. And I'm glad you brought up Kyle Shanahan. He's obviously under fire this week. I mean, I'm going to say he's under fire on Twitter, which is not a real place. And he is not under fire. He is not, sorry guys, he is not on the hot seat. Like he's fine. And it's ridiculous. But I'm glad you brought this up because It is ridiculous. And you do have one of the more creative coaches in the league. And it's just, people have to calm down. In the words of the great Taylor Swift, I said that earlier this week on the podcast, but I mean, everybody needs to calm down. Like it's just, it's kind of crazy, but I think we will see that creativity, and then everybody will love him again. All of a sudden, he'll be a genius.
I mean, here's the easy retort to all of that stupidness, Tracy. Okay, let him go somewhere else.
And who are you going to get that's better?
That's it. Mm-hmm. Okay, Sean McVay's not going up there. Rams aren't letting him go.
Nope.
All right, so who you got? Let him go somewhere else. Mm-hmm. Let him get with Joey Burrow, right? Let him get with Lamar Jackson. Okay.
Sure. Yeah.
Go. Fine. You don't want him. You're disappointed. Okay, go get somebody else. Good luck with that one.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Who are you going to find that's better? Nobody. Definitely nobody. So I'm glad. Well, we solved that. We can nip that in the bud now. We can have some nip that in the bud. So let's talk a little bit about this 49ers defense, and let's talk about turnovers, because as stellar as they played, it was the 49ers committed 3 turnovers. They did not themselves get any turnovers. So that, of course, was the story. That and the safety were the story of the game the other night. And it's always going to be the turnover battle. I mean, that's usually there, except there was a game in 2019 where the 49ers played the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I believe there were 5 turnovers, the 49ers, and they still somehow ran the game. But that is the exception, not the rule. So we'll start with that. But this 49ers defense has been incredible. But what do they need to do? I mean, Matthew Stafford, I'm going to say he loves throwing interceptions. He doesn't, but he's interception prone. We'll say that.
Yeah.
He's not playing at the level. There's usually good for one. He's not playing maybe at the level that we have seen in the last year or so, and we'll see how much that elbow injury becomes an issue as the season goes on. But what does this 49ers team need to do to be better at creating turnovers and winning that battle? And I almost hate to even say this because the defense has just been so good that I don't know what they need to do to improve. But maybe we'll give the offense a break.
I mean, I look at that Denver game. It's like, when did they have an opportunity? It was 3 and out. It was just a punt fest, right? Mm-hmm. And when Russell was throwing the ball, he was off the mark most of the time. So it wasn't like they had a ton of opportunities, maybe punching the ball out. I mean, but that's easier said than done. They'll have some opportunities this game because like both these quarterbacks will give you an opportunity. Both Jimmy G and Matthew Stafford will put a 1 or 2 in the air a game where you've got an opportunity to pick it. The key for this defense, is to get the Rams, as we just talked about, in 2nd and 6+. Mm-hmm. Kind of forcing them to throw. Now, what's been interesting, the Rams the past 2 games, is Sean McVay has finally taken a page out of the Kyle Shanahan book and started using a fullback. Mm-hmm. But the fullback is a wide receiver named Ben Skowronek. So technically, they are still in their 11 personnel, which is 1 tailback, 1 tight end, 3 wide. Mm-hmm. But they motion one of those wide receivers, Skowronek, who's about 225 and has, a complete linebacker's mentality, to come in there and play the Kyle Juszczyk role. They use them in the same way as a lead blocker, or they'll give him a play action, slip him out, and throw him the ball. So these are some things that Sean has planted the past 2 weeks now that the Niners have to game plan for. So when they see this look 8, 10, 12 times a game, okay, is it a run situation or 2nd and 5 and in, or could they possibly release him in coverage? So you have to kind of commit to that guy, which is going to leave one of those, Cam Akers, Darrell Henderson, who are very good in the run and pass games, as a threat to occupy a safety or something. So the gamesmanship has begun without the snap being taken. So the key for the 49ers is just not to let the Rams get in favorable 2nd down and distance. That is again, it is a basic coach speak topic, but when these 2 teams play, that's really what it comes down to. And if the Niners can keep them in 2nd and long to kind of force the passing game, then what are the Rams going to do? Because they still have yet to kind of fully figure out how to incorporate Allen Robinson. He got more touches last week, but he has not been incorporated like a Robert Woods was or like an Odell Beckham was. That's still a work in progress. And to kind of to that point, Tracy, you said the Rams, Matthew Stafford, these guys haven't looked great. This is how the Rams look every year. They just tend to start out better because they may open up against a team like the Bears and not the Buffalo Bills.
Right.
And so that's kind of why they don't look all that great, because they try to peak in December and not September. Same with the Niners.
I was going to say, same with the Niners. And that's why I think it is amazing to me how everyone is talking about how the sky is falling, because again, this was a team that was 3-5 and it was basically over and came back and ended up in the NFC Championship game. So I don't know that the sky is ever falling. And I think every year feels so dramatic and like it's all a disaster and all of that, but it's football. And, you say the record, them being 1-2, it doesn't even sound that bad. But like I said at the top of the show, it's really kind of what we've seen on offense that is more concerning. And can they correct that? I agree with you. Jimmy will get better. And I do think there's something to be said for the fact that he had shoulder surgery, no OTAs, no training camp, and he had been the backup quarterback. And so he hadn't been the starter. And I see a lot of argument of, but this is the offense he's been running for 5 years. But it doesn't matter. You still have to be in game shape. You still need to get chemistry with the people you're throwing the ball to. You still need to have time to throw the ball. So it doesn't matter. And I think everybody needs to just, give it a beat. They have the Rams, then they have the Panthers, they have the Falcons, and then they have the Chiefs, and then they have the Rams again. So over these next several weeks, we'll see him get better. We'll see the offense get better. If they can squeak out 2 or 3 wins, I believe they're in pretty good shape. Moving in, then they have their bye week.
And Tracy, let's not forget, George Kittle has not been 100% yet.
Yes,
right?
Correct.
So you got to get the George Kittle factor incorporated into everything as well. Once he gets going, like they'll kind of figure out ways to manipulate this offensive line. It is they're going to have their issues, right? Mm-hmm. But they'll find ways to manipulate it. They'll go too tight. They'll use Kittle as a primary blocker or another tight end as a primary blocker sometimes. But they'll get it going. I mean, that's just how come, like right now we're having this debate, are the Eagles or the Dolphins the best team in the NFL? I'm like, talk to me in November.
Right.
I mean, there's always these teams that come out like gangbusters, and it's very hard to go wire to wire, right? Mm-hmm. We see it every year, and then some teams just kind of hanging around, and then in early December, they're the proverbial, this is the team you don't want to be playing right now. And it seems like every other year, that's the 49ers.
I think that's true. I mean, it really is true because it's funny. In 2017, which was obviously very much the rebuild. I don't even think building is even the right term. It was a complete culture shift and change of everything, and everyone had bought in. But in December, when Jimmy Garoppolo came in and they did go on that 5-game win streak, nobody wanted to play them. And you had teams like the Jaguars going to the playoffs who lost to them. You had teams that were affected by the 49ers in 2018 injuries, 2019. Nobody wanted to play them all year because they were pretty much beating everybody. But, even in 2020, who knows? But last year, I think they fit that. And going to the playoffs, nobody wanted to play them. And they went into Dallas and Green Bay and won. So, we are still early. This will be our first game of October for the 49ers, but it is only week 4 and a long, long way to go. So, but I do think, and I don't want to over dramatize it, but I do think this game becomes very important from you want to see improvement from the offense. You want the defense to continue to play well. And I also almost think from a kind of team perspective, at a certain point, it's got to take its toll if you've got a defense that's playing lights out every week and the offense just can't score points. And I imagine that's got to mentally take its toll. And I don't know what that does behind the scenes. And again, I don't want to start controversy or be overly dramatic, but it would be just be a good thing for all around if the 49ers can actually get some points on the board.
Yeah, I don't think that would affect the 49ers. I mean, the culture up there is really different, right? They have a very special culture. I'm in most locker rooms, right? And with some teams, that would absolutely impact them. Like at some point in Denver, if they don't get this offense going, you're going to have dudes like, we paid all this guy all this money, we've got all these wide receivers and these running backs and so on, and they can't score. So is it the offense or is it the coach? I mean, there's going to be people asking those questions. I don't see that happening with the 49ers because, one, most of this nucleus has been together for a very long time.
That is true.
2, this is how it is because everyone prepared for the season knowing that Trey Lance was going to be the starter. That was the game plan anyway. The defense is what was going to be the glue for this team to succeed. So, again, I just don't think if it takes a while for this offense to get going that everyone's going to be like, our guys in the defense can be like, damn, this offense is killing us. They're asking us to bail them out every game. Because I'll tell you this, the mindset of a defensive player, go 3 and out because I want to get back on the field.
Right.
I mean, it's you want to play as many snaps as you possibly can. Now, at some point, you do have to score.
Right. It's
But
more about the fact that you do need to score points to win the game. That
correct.
becomes, of course, the bigger issue. I am no expert, but if there's one thing I know, it is that.
You gotta score points. And look, people we talk about scoring points. Everyone talks about last year in 2021 the Cowboys scored more points than anybody else. You know where like 7 or 8 of their touchdowns came from? Defense and special teams.
Mm-hmm.
So the offense was good, but it wasn't lights out like people think it is if they just read the stat sheet. So if the Niners can get their hands on some balls, and they will. I mean, that defensive front, Chris Kasarik, their D-line coach, my God. Whenever Armstead comes back, it's only going to make things better. So, that part is going to come. They get Al-Zaire back, whenever. He's going to make it better because that linebacking crew is as special as it gets. I mean, I love Fred Warner, Al-Zaire, and Greenlaw. So, that part is not – that's going to stay solid. Unless they have some injuries, that part's not going to go away.
And they have a much, much better secondary, and the addition of Charvarius Ward was huge for the team. I mean, he's a fantastic player, and just watching him on the field and everything that he does and where he is, I mean, it's just next level from anything that they've been used to for some time now. You brought up Eric Armstead, so I'll give everybody just an update from Thursday's practice. He did not play. He's still out, but Kyle Shanahan said he's hopeful he'll be back. We talked a lot about the offensive line. Maybe some good news coming. Daniel Brunskill was at least at practice on a limited basis for the first time this season. So some progress there. So there's my good news treat for the day. Who would have thought that, no disrespect to Daniel Brunskill, who's been great for this team, but that's my good news treat for the day is that Daniel Brunskill was limited in practice. Hey, but that matters, and it really matters now. So it becomes a very, very big deal. So that's kind of where we're at. And you're right with that defense. I mean, they are absolutely incredible. And I think the secondary, too, we haven't even seen them as good as they've been. They're playing together for the first time. And this is their first few games together. So we're going to see that get better and better. And so, and this is a good opportunity for turnovers for both teams. As we said, both quarterbacks are interception happy. And this would be a great one for the Niners to come up with a couple of Matthew Stafford balls.
Real quick on the secondary. I mean, Emmanuel Mosley's been a pretty good player, but what he's playing like right now, I mean, he's coming up and he's rocking guys. He's always around the ball. And again, I think it's a function of the entire defense, but the development, D'Amico Ryans and the other end coaches, the development of players on that defense, it is hard to develop guys in the NFL once the season starts. And the continued growth you've seen out of some of these players, that coaching staff is as good as it gets. And I mean, I know they've churned through some guys, but when you see some of these guys playing like this, props to them.
And kind of, on Emmanuel Mosley, first of all, I'm going to do a shameless plug. I have a story on Emmanuel Mosley and Juwan Jennings coming out Monday mornings. Make sure everybody read it. They were teammates at Tennessee, and they both kind of coming into the league long shots. So you guys make sure to read that. But I think it's worth mentioning Emmanuel Mosley was an undrafted free agent who made the team because he could play defense and he could play special teams. He gets hurt on like the third play of his first game, and he's out the rest of the season. But that's incredible. And I think it's worth mentioning Charvarius Ward, although the 49ers didn't develop him, he was also an undrafted free agent. So I just like mentioning that generally because you've got two pretty tremendous players at corner. And I think in terms of talent scouting and even for the 49ers to look at Charvarius Ward, who's probably a top 6 corner in the league, and pay him the money and bring him in, I think there's something to be said for that because they also get a lot of flack on drafting and not being able to scout talent. And that's my Twitter voice. They can't scout. There's my Twitter voice, which I disagree with.
Okay. Yeah, they've got so many bad players on their team.
Oh yeah, it's terrible. So many.
I guess these are the same people who are saying that Kyle should be fired, right?
Oh, it's definitely the same people. I think they're on a list. I think there's some kind of Twitter list of takes that don't make sense. But
have you checked to see if their IP addresses are coming from LA, Seattle, and Arizona?
Exactly. It's like the tickets last year for the NFC Championship game. It's the same people for sure. It's definitely the same people. All right. So, Steve, I'm going to say prediction time. I'm going to put you on the hot. I'll do it too. I'm so bad at score predictions. Like, I'm embarrassingly bad at it, but I do it as well because I feel like I should be in lockstep with my guests. So I'll let you go first. But who do you think wins this game?
I'm going to say the Rams get it 24-21, and this is where the Trent Williams loss pays in. We see Aaron Donald has come up clutch against these guys at the end of games a couple times, and I think he's going to be right there again.
I am going to I've been going back and forth on this a lot. I really have. I've been going back and forth. There's a big part of me that feels they're going to win this game and then lose to the Panthers and the Falcons. Just kidding. That would be terrible, but I could see it happening. But
don't sleep on the Falcons now.
Well, that's why I'm saying I think they're going to win this game, and that's why I'm telling you it would, but also would be very on brand. And I think you can't sleep on the Falcons, and they'll have had a long road trip and the whole thing. But I think because I have a lot of 49ers fans that listen, and because I said all those mean things about Twitter, I'm going to go ahead and give the 49ers the win 21-20. And you're welcome, guys. I don't know if that's actually happened, but that I'm going to give you
and now you got them going 14-2, right?
Yeah. No. Oh no, I definitely don't. I think this is a 10-win team is my feeling on that. Sorry, guys. I know I gave them such a gift to 49ers fans.
Better than that. We'll see.
See? Well, there you go. So I'm so optimistic about this, but we'll see. We'll see.
November, man. The two teams playing Sunday night are going to be rocking and rolling.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah, that is going to be a game. Well, maybe we'll have to have you back on to talk about that other LA team in the game in November. Steve, thank you so much for joining me. Please remind everybody where they can find you on social and beyond.
Yep, Twitter and IG at Wyche, WYCHE 89. Those are the numerals, Wyche 89. NFL Network, pretty much daily on NFL Now from 10 to 12 Pacific time, and typically on game day mornings, except the next 2 Sundays because we're going to be over in England and kickoff's going to be starting at 6:30 Pacific time in the morning. So we've got no show.
Yeah, and that's just much too early for anybody. That's silly. So that's my feeling on that.
It's awesome.
That's true. There's football all day long. And actually this week I get to enjoy that because 49ers are Monday night. So I actually get a Sunday of football.
There you go.
Maybe I'll get myself up at 6:30, get some coffee and watch some football in London. Yay. Watch the Saints and the Vikings, right? I think I will.
You should.
I'll make sure to document it on the gram. All right, guys, if you like what you heard, and I know you did, please make sure to leave us a 5-star review. Follow us on Instagram at Fangirl Sports Network. We are brought to you by FIVO. We are brought to you by Bet Online. And I'll talk to everybody next week. We'll see which one of us was right. Bye, y'all.